How's it going, everybody? For today's video, I'm going to teach you how to use pinpoint pitching and how to dot everyone's lives away. Let me start off by saying pinpoint should be super easy. I think a lot of people overthink it and make it way more difficult than it really is. And that's why I'm here. I'm going to show you how easy it is. And that's saying something, right? Because I'm probably known as one of the worst pitchers in MLB The Show history. But now I'm so confident I actually might be the best. First things first, let's talk about these settings, because I do think, especially if you're starting to try and get used to pinpoint, and again, we'll show this a little bit more when I'm actually showing the pinpoint, but my settings currently, my pitching view is zoomed so I can see a little bit more of the field, but it is still also zoomed in quite a bit from behind home plate. That way I can see the pinpoint meter quite a bit better. But what I would recommend, if you are new or have been struggling with it, put it in strike zone pitching view. All right, so you'd go over here, you put it in strike zone, because it makes it as close as possible, the same way you would like hitting. Also, as a side note, if you like hitting tips, please smash that like button to help us with the YouTube algorithm, but also leave a comment down below too, so I'm very aware that you guys would like that. But again, with strike zone, using it behind home plate, you will be able to see it a lot better. One of the things I will always recommend, whether it's hitting or pitching, if you're always trying to get better, custom practice is definitely going to be the way. The best way that I think I can break down pinpoint for everybody is by messing each part of this up one by one and explaining what's actually happening. So what we're gonna do here is miss everything completely, and there's gonna be three things that pop up. Your accuracy, which is what you're seeing on your screen, that line that is moving across and showing you how to go down. The second thing that you will see is going to be the timing of which you went down to that bottom circle, and we'll explain exactly how to do that properly. And then the third thing is going to be how far to the right or to the left of that circle you were on your way down. So again, like I said, we're going to mess this all up. Let's just scribble like we're 5 years old. So again, you see accuracy, I was 2.24 seconds, so super early, and 6 degrees to the right of that bottom circle. So to break this down even more so it makes even more sense, we're going to do one by one correctly so you guys can understand it. So the first part that we're going to do correctly is going to be the accuracy. So you want to watch this pitch. It is going to tell you how to draw it correctly, but again, the speed of which you are supposed to. And if I were to mess this up even a little bit, there will be yellow area, and it'll tell you if you went a little too fast in that area or a little too slow. That way you can make on the fly adjustments. Now, as a quick side note, before we throw the circle change, this should be one of the more difficult pitches to throw. There's a lot more movement that you have to put on the pinpoint, but again, it is pretty easy. The hardest one that I've had so far that I still struggle with every now and then, it's going to be the splitter. So again, let's just go ahead and trace this correctly. Look at that, 98 accuracy, and like I said, I'm gonna mess up everything else. So I was 0.28 seconds early, 30 degrees to the left. Now let's go ahead and do two of these correctly. So to add on top of that, where I said earlier that there's going to be a yellow and a green. Green means you're doing it correctly. The other part of it means you're not. So I'm going to do my best to do some of it correctly and then do what I think a lot of people do, which is they'll start off slow like it shows, and then they speed up at the end. So let me try and do that. So instead of having one fluid motion, that's what it is. And it'll say 32% accuracy, and they'll come up and tell you that you're either too early, too late, so you can make that adjustment. Let's go ahead and choose the circle change again. And I do want to emphasize, if you're looking at this, it is one fluid motion. It's not speeding up. You got plenty of time. Don't panic. Just one speed all the way around tracing it. So let's go ahead and show it. One fluid motion all the way around. You don't speed up. We got 96. We're probably a little too fast on top. Right there, we got it perfect with 96%. Certain pitches are going to have a certain threshold of which you need to meet to be able to get it perfect. So the bottom two, which again is the timing and how far to the left or right of that bottom circle you were. The timing, you need to be within 0.04 on the early or late side, and you need to be within 0.04, or well, I guess 4% from left or right to that bottom circle. Those are the two thresholds you are looking to meet on every single pitch to be able to get that perfect. And accuracy, which is that first stat, is going to depend pitch by pitch. I think circle change is more, it's like 78% or above, you could still get it perfect. 78 or 77% and below, you will not be able to get it perfect regardless of what you get on those other two. But still, being able to do those other two correctly will limit how bad it ends up being. The only pitch that is going to be above 80% accuracy threshold is going to be the fastball. Why? It is the easiest pitch, but again, people overthink it. So that threshold is going to be 84%, if I'm not mistaken. As long as you get 85% or above, you should be fine. So in general, let's just say the rule of thumb, be 80% accurate on that tracing of every single pitch, except for the fastball that needs to be 85 and above. Now that we've talked about a little bit about the thresholds of these pitches and how you are supposed to do them, let's go and do the sinker. So I already did it where you do the tracement correct. Now you need to do the timing. And again, if you're new to this, use strike zone. It'll bring you closer so you can really try and see it even better. But the timing of which you're supposed to go down, the display shows you. You do the tracement, you're holding it up top, and then you're going to see what I'm going to emphasize is when that circle, and we're going to have some fun with this, when it turns into a puckered butthole, right? When it closes, that's when you're supposed to shoot your analog down. Okay, let's do these two parts as correctly as possible. We got 98%. So you see that circle, it went away. You throw your PCI from up top down to where that circle. Now, again, when you move that pitch inside, whether it's a slider, sinker, wherever it goes, that circle is always going to move. You see it at the bottom, it is constantly swaying. So because of that, you sometimes will have to move your analog to the left or the right, depending on where you place the pitch. Again, let's just show it one more time. 100% accuracy. When that circle closes, you slam it down, you get a perfect. Now, this whole pinpoint part, this should be the easiest one, right? Now that you understand the timings of what you're supposed to be aiming for, right? The accuracies we're supposed to be aiming for. Now you understand the timing. Again, something that I don't think a lot of people have touched on is every pitcher, even on the same pitches, the tracement's going to be the same. A slider is going to be a slider, a changeup, a sinker, all those pitches, they're going to be the same. However, the timing is going to be a little bit different pitcher to pitcher. So some of them you'll need to go a little bit faster. Some of them you'll need to go a little bit slower. Just like in real life, everyone's got a little bit different wind up. So now that we've talked about 2 out of the 3 components of pinpoint pitching, which is again, accuracy, how well you can trace the pitch, and also at the correct speed that is displaying to you. Especially once you get more comfortable to it, you don't have to sit there and watch every pitch. I don't. Especially with pitchers that I've already used, I'm pretty comfortable at the speed I'm supposed to. We'll also get to the point of when someone's on and how that ramps up and how you should still be perfectly fine. And even slide stepping, I've tested it. You can slide step with this. It's not a big deal. But also, that's the first component, how well you could trace it and at the correct speed. The second part that we've already talked about, when that circle closes, that's the timing down that you're supposed to get to. The third part is how far left or right. And again, I think this is the easiest part, right? If you're able to get these first 2 parts down, you're not going to be able to struggle with this. I was 2 degrees to the left. If you were able to pitch with pure analog, this is the easiest part. Okay, there's no messing this up. Maybe the occasional time I messed it up once or twice all year, but that bottom circle, just like with pure analog, there's a circle at the top. You want to get as close to that circle as possible. So now what we're going to do is show how still easy pinpoint should be even with runners on, because a lot of people struggle with that. They get way too in their heads and then they try and go faster. Is it going to be faster? It is going to be a little bit faster, but again, just watch the pitch. You'll realize how much time you really have to trace the pitch and then go down. So again, runner on first or second or third, right? Just any runner on. Instead of being in the windup, you're going to be in the stretch. And we'll show you how easy that is. So again, with the runner on first, what are you seeing? The pinpoint is moving faster. The motion around to make the circle change, which is going to be one of the hardest pitches, is quicker. Especially to note the way you're supposed to move the analog down when that circle closes. That's a lot faster. So what I like to do when there's a runner on, I like to focus on that bottom circle. I'm not looking anywhere else. I know the tracement of the pitch. I see the timing. So mentally, I think I could do that. And I know I can. So I'm just watching the timing of that bottom circle when it's supposed to close. So again, one of the hardest pitches, you got to go a little bit faster, but not a crazy amount. You get it down. We were still 0.05. So again, that threshold that I'm telling you about, we want to be 0.04 and below, whether it's again to the early side or to the late side. But again, circle change has the most movement you're supposed to trace, and it still wasn't that bad. So again, everything still applies. All it is just moving a little bit quicker. I highly recommend, again, if you are new, click the pitch, watch how quick or slow in a lot of cases, because I think it's still pretty slow, that you're supposed to move up and down even on this fastball. So just down and up. And when that circle closes, throw it down. You're going to pinpoint. You're going to be throwing dots all day. Again, I went from one of the worst pitchers in the last 2 years to what I think is probably one of the best pitchers. And if you think I'm bluffing, go to my Twitch channel. You'll see me throwing dots pretty much every single pitch. And I'm also going to throw in why here in a second that you really should consider using pinpoint, especially if you're trying to make World Series or even if it's on the lower difficulties. Because if once you hit Hall of Fame, you hit Legend, oh, Daddy's going to show you. Because there's some things that you really need to know about pinpoint and why it's going to be the best, and there's no doubting it. So I don't care about throwing this pitch down the middle. I just want to show it right before we get into what I was just talking about. The movement is a little bit faster. Again, I like to focus on that bottom circle. I'm going to zoom in so you see what I'm talking about. That bottom circle, when it's open and when it starts closing. When it is fully closed, I move my PCI down to that. Not PCI, the analog down to that. It's just that simple, right? Don't overthink it. Just do the tracement, get it right, slam it down. Again, I threw that pitch down the middle on purpose, or threw it down the middle on purpose, but you see the perfect, it lit up. Every pitch, once you know what you're supposed to be doing, this is going to be super easy. So I just mentioned earlier what I said. I wanted to point out why on Hall of Fame, especially Legend, if you're going to be playing in World Series and above, right? You make World Series, you play a couple more games, maybe you want to try and get top 10, top 50, whatever it is that you want to do. If you're going to continue to play past Hall of Fame, this is why pinpoint pitching is going to be what I think is necessary, right? If you want to be competitive as possible or as good as possible for something that should be pretty easy. Once you get this down, it ain't leaving you. But let's go ahead and show what it looks like on pure analog, right? This is what people say on the lower difficulties, that this is still just as good. And I will kind of agree. Pure analog on the lower difficulties isn't that much different than pinpoint. And this is how you will know, right? Let me click a circle change. You see that gray circle around the baseball. You see that it basically eats up, I don't know, we'll call it a full, almost the half of the bottom quadrant of the plate. That is on pure analog on Legend difficulty, right? We are on Legend difficulty. Now let's go ahead, put it back on pinpoint, and keep in mind how big that gray circle was. So now that we're back on pinpoint, look how much smaller the gray circle is. And what this means is when you get that perfect release, it is still going to end up somewhere in this gray circle, but it's a lot smaller than pure analog. It doesn't eat up as much of the plate. This is going to be a much more accurate pitch, and it's not going to be as bad. Even when you mess up like I just did right there, it still ended up in a decent spot. It doesn't end up down the middle like with pure analog that we were seeing the last 2 years. You mess up on analog, maybe it's better this year. I haven't tested it, but I can speak for the last 2 years. When you miss with pure analog, you had a tendency to throw it over the heart of the plate. With pinpoint, it doesn't really tend to go down the middle. It'll just be a pitch that goes, you know, like 30 feet high, gets by your catcher. I'd rather those happen than me give up a bases loaded shot because I messed up on 1 out of 10 pitches. So again, just for good measure, because I feel like on the fastball, you'll really see it the most. Even on pinpoint on Legend, look at how big this circle is. It is not big. This gray circle around the ball, you should be able to pinpoint a fastball. And the other thing I do want to mention, people are saying, oh, control's not going to matter this year. It still is. It may matter less, but it's still going to matter a lot because that's what's affecting this gray circle too. So as you see, we're back on pure analog, same pitch, just a fastball. This gray circle has gotten pretty damn big. So even on a good release, you hit that line, you hit that hoop, it could go anywhere in this gray circle. So even if I want to say, oh, let me try and, you know, jam up Mike Trout, this thing could leak over the plate on really good input. So now that you're more familiar as to why you should be using pinpoint, especially on the higher difficulties, again, lower difficulties, it's not going to matter as much. But as soon as you cross over to that Hall of Fame Legend threshold, so we're going to call it rated 700 plus in ranked seasons, it's going to really make a pretty big difference. So those who are really good at pinpoint are really going to shine above those who are just good at your everyday analog. So real quickly against David Fletcher, we're going to do like a series of pitches, like how I would approach someone in Diamond Dynasty, try and open him up. Like if you could pitch in real life, or if you play baseball in real life, that's going to help you hitting this year. That's also really going to help you pitching if you were a pitcher. So again, we're going to pitch to David Fletcher, go over everything that I talked about, the timing, the circle, the left and right, all that good stuff. And if for whatever reason you have any questions, I didn't convey something correctly, or it didn't come across off well, or just didn't make any sense, leave a question in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer it as quick as possible. As a quick side note, pinpoint is going to take more of a focus, right? Because you are going to have to pay attention to 3 things as opposed to just a line and a hoop on pure analog. But again, it's going to be much more rewarding. So it depends how you are as a person. Do you want to have more control over your team, but that does require more, you know, attention? I have fun. I've had a lot of fun pitching because it's not just a mindless task anymore. I look forward to being able to control my pitchers and hit my spots. That's what pinpoint gives you. You have those 2 choices, and the 2 best choices are going to be pure analog. You kind of just you get to sit back, hit that line in the hoop, it'll go in that gray circle, everything will be fine. Pinpoint, it is kind of what it means. I mean, you're throwing dots, you're pinpointing everything. So again, against David Fletcher, first pitch, I'm probably going to be looking to throw a sinker inside, 100% accuracy, the butthole puckers. Even though that's a perfect, again, that gray circle, it could go anywhere in there, but very rarely, if you get it perfect, does it miss. Usually it goes exactly where we want to, but again, this is on legend. There's going to be a little bit more randomness. Let's go ahead and choose the slider next. So even though it's 90%, that's going to be well within the threshold, and we almost throw a dot. Next pitch we're going to throw against David Fletcher is going to be the four seam up and away. I get it, in real life, he really does love this pitch, but in Diamond Dynasty, when you're facing another user, they tend to struggle with this high and away fastball. And if you even want to have some real good fun, because you can do a pinpoint, you throw a changeup up and away, really get him to roll it over. But again, this is a pitch that people tend to struggle to keep fair. They either yank it hard foul or they sit back too long, and so you just get a free strike. And the reason why, again, 85% accuracy right there, we only got 77. So even on a circle change, you would get 77 counts on a circle change. 77 will count as a threshold to still be perfect. So now let's go ahead and focus a little bit more. Let's go ahead, up, down, 94%. This time it's going to be a dot. You saw that gray circle ended up pretty much right where we wanted it. Now, a pitch this year that has gotten a lot better. Curveballs, sweeping curves. The curveballs have received a massive, like, I don't know, boost. They're breaking how they would in real life. They're much more sharp. So a curveball this year has been a lot of fun to throw. I'll throw a curveball, a little bit out of the zone to try and get someone to either swing over the top of if they read it correctly, but it's going to be a ground ball, or it's a really good strikeout pitch because you threw it even lower and they just swing completely over the top and you get that strikeout. So we're gonna do that to David Fletcher. In a curveball, if I had to also throw in pitching metas this year, right, the best pitches, you're looking for a sinker circle change, because a circle change is going to break exactly like the sinker, so it's really tough to pick up which one it is. Especially like Pedro, he has that. I highly recommend using Pedro. But the OP pitches this year, circle change, curveball, sinker, cutter. The sliders are still good, but I'm gonna take a cutter all day over a slider. Pretty much every pitch this year, though, if you use it correctly and you're setting somebody up, there's not just a bad pitch. A curveball's gotten a lot better. The sinker's still OP. The cutter, again, just by being able to pitch how you would approach somebody in real life, really makes a lot more pitches effective. So the last pitch that we are going to show is going to be that curveball that I was just talking about. It's going to be also one of the easier pitches to throw, but you see the movement, right? It's starting above the plate, ending up below it. So that's where I'm saying they've increased the break, and pay attention to how much sharper it really is. And it's also one of the easier pitches to throw. 84% accuracy. We're within that threshold. You get it. Perfect. Again, any questions, let me know in that comment section. I will do my best to answer. So that is going to do it for the pinpoint pitching tips tutorial. If you guys would like me to talk about hitting, because I think I'm hitting like 472 in ranked seasons, I could talk about not only the timing, how to increase PCI accuracy. If you would like that, please do me a favor. Leave a comment wanting me to do that so I'm aware that you guys are looking for it. But also, please leave a thumbs up on this video. But if you enjoyed today's content, again, please leave a thumbs up on this video and subscribe to the channel. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.